So as we have just one game week remaining of this championship season, I thought it would be a timely part of the year to bring to you who has been, for me, each championship club's best player this season. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below who for you got your player of the season vote. We'll be discussing each club in today's video, and let's jump in. Birmingham, I'm going Austin Trusty. In terms of consistency throughout the year, I think he's been their best player. Always find it a little bit precarious at times maybe to give the player of the season award to a loanee, but I really think that Trusty's deserved it this season. Defensively been really sound, and also popped up with some massive moments as well. Thinking about probably Birmingham's best away day of the season, away at Swansea, he came up with that last minute winner in that one. 4 goals he scored this season, but defensively been really sound. I'm interested to see what happens with him next. Blackburn Rovers, I'm going Dominic Heim. Consistently, I think he's been one of the best defenders, not just at Blackburn, but in the entirety of the championship this season. And thinking back on Blackburn's 2 transfer windows, they didn't really do that much business in either January or the summer, but they got this signing absolutely spot on. A bargain it's turned out to be, signing from Coventry. In terms of who I was between for this award, I also think that Joe Rankin Costello's worth a shout as well, but as Heim's played more matches, I think he has to get it. Blackpool, I'm going to have to go for Jerry Yates. Popped up with some big goals for the Seasiders this season, 14 in total. That's 30% of Blackpool's league goals this season. Only 5 players in the championship have had a larger overall contribution to the total amount of goals that a side has scored. And in a Blackpool side who has really struggled for creativity at times throughout the year, it usually was Yates providing the goods. With their relegation to League One now confirmed, I would expect quite a few championship clubs to be sniffing around Yates in the summer. Bristol City, Alex Scott. Whenever I've watched Bristol City this season over a full 90 minutes, Scott has pretty much always been the best player on the pitch for me. Really good and a high ceiling that he's got about him, just 19 years old. I think in the end a deserved winner of the Young Player of the Year award in the championship as well, although there were a few people who disagreed with that summary, but got such a bright future ahead of him, and perhaps, you know, this will be the last time we see him in a Bristol City shirt. Burnley, I think you could pick out about 5 deserved winners from their team, but a personal favourite of mine probably would be Josh Cullen. I think a really underrated bit of business from Burnley in the summer. We had previously seen him in the championship, really impressed with that loan spell he had while out at Charlton, but this season just been such a complete player. And don't get me wrong, there are other players who would be worthy winners for Burnley. Brownhill's been brilliant, Bayer, Maatsen, Zarori, Teller, Manuel Benson for the goals he's scored, but all around contribution and a little bit of an unsung hero, Cullen's been fantastic whenever I've watched Burnley. Cardiff City, I'm going for Perrin G. Had Robinson not picked up that season-ending injury when he did, I might have gone for him, but consistently he's been absolutely brilliant this season. Asked to play in a new role as well, really made a name for himself as a central defender in a back 3, also capable of playing out on that right-hand side. Had a decent attacking output this season as well, couple of assists, couple of goals. Who knew he could take a free kick as sweetly as he could? All things considered, I think the 27-year-old's been a really good player this season in what has been a tough season for Cardiff. Coventry, I'm going Victor Gyökeres. I think Gustavo Hamer won the official player of the season award, and I'm not against that. I was going back and forth between both players, but to have 31 goal contributions for this Coventry side, I mean, it's absolutely unheard of. It's fantastic from Gyökeres, both from a goal scoring and creative point. He's been absolutely unplayable at times. Plenty of the goals that he scored this season, he's crafted out almost individually as well with his fluid dribbling style and created goals for others. Not taking anything away from Hamer though, also a deserving winner of this award, setting the tempo, and he himself getting 18 goal contributions from midfield is also noteworthy. Huddersfield, I'm going Michael Healick. It was between him and Matty Pearson for me, but I think Healick for consistency just takes it over the course of a full season. I think even when Huddersfield were at their lowest of lows, he was still someone who was putting in consistent performances, with some others having a pretty turgid time around him. Clearances per game this season, 6.1. That's by far and away the most of any championship defender this season. Pearson was also up there because of some of the important goals he scored towards the end of the season, but in terms of consistency, I think it has to be Healick. Hull City, think I'm going to go Regan Slater. Consistently throughout the season, I think he's always turned up for Hull. There were some other shouts I've got in there. Sean McLaughlin's been really good, but not played as many games as someone like Slater, who's surrounded by bigger names than him, and he may not be the sexiest name in this whole squad, but throughout the season been a little bit of an unsung hero, and 9 goal contributions in that time as well, with 5 goals and 4 assists is also noteworthy. Luton Town, I'm going Carlton Morris, but that's a really tough one between Morris and Lockyer, who have both been brilliant individually for different reasons. Lockyer being that absolute rock in that Luton backline, which has been so stable this season, but you can't ignore 27 goal contributions from Carlton Morris, and he's arguably been the component in this side which has taken them to that next level compared to the Luton squad of last season. Absolute bargain he's turned out to be, considering the money they spent for him, picking him up from Barnsley, and 20 goals, 7 assists just can't be sniffed at. Middlesbrough, there's not much competition. Of course it's Chuba Akpom. He was my personal pick for the outright Championship Player of the Season award, so of course he gets my pick for being the best Borough player this season. Playing in a new role, sort of as a withdrawn striker, been really effective in that role this season. 28 goals, 2 assists, 30 goal contributions, 37 appearances all around. Just a fantastic season for Akpom. There are a few shouts you could go for at Millwall, but myself personally, it's got to be Zian Fleming. Saw him come to Deepdale earlier in the season and single-handedly win that game for Millwall, scoring a hat-trick, and he's just had so many of those match-winning moments for Gary outside this season that if you take out Fleming of that side, I'm not sure they've got anywhere near as many points as they do right now. A few other honourable mentions you could go for any of that back line who's been really solid. Tom Bradshaw, who's got 17 goals, but the overall package, Fleming's just added that little bit of stardust. Norwich City, I'm going to go for Angus Gunn. It's not been the best season for the Canaries, and Gunn's not even been the established number 1 for the entire season. There was a spell with Krull in there as well, but I think that Gunn on several occasions has really saved this Norwich side in terms of goals prevented. He's been the best goalkeeper in the Championship this season, despite only playing 35 matches, 7.5 parental goals this season, which is the most of any Championship goalkeeper. And in what has been a really inconsistent year all around, I think he's been reliable with his shot stopping. Preston, I think I'm going Ben Whiteman. His absence for me is felt more than any other player when they're out of the squad. And with Preston, it's been a bit of a funny one this season, because for different months of the season we've had players who have stepped up to the plate. You know, early on in the season Liam Lindsay was fantastic, but his form dipped towards the end of the season. Woodman's had some great moments, but similarly also had a few dips in that time as well. Evans is up there, but he's only started in 14 Championship matches and been injured recently. Alvaro Fernandez also worth a shout as well, but all things considered, I think my personal pick would be Ben Whiteman. QPR, I'm going Sam Field. I was between him and Chair, but I think Chair's had the moments in this season where his confidence has taken a little bit of a knock and his productivity dipped a little bit because of that, but he still came up with some big moments throughout the season. But consistently, we go back to that a lot in today's video, Field's been absolutely fantastic. He started in every Championship match for this QPR side so far this season, almost racking up 4,000 minutes in total. Underlying numbers off the ball really promising as well, and in what has been, let's face it, a miserable season for QPR, he's been one of the more promising players. Reading, I'm going to go for Tom Ince. I know that his productivity has dried up somewhat in the second half of the season, but generally speaking, in the matches that Reading have either won or got something from, Ince has usually been quite central to those performances, either coming up with a key pass, conjuring up a moment, a set piece, or scoring himself. And 9 goals, 4 assists in a side who's been pretty lacklustre this season, isn't too shabby. Rotherham, of course, I'm going Victor Johansson. He was my personal pick for the best goalkeeper in the Championship outright this season. I really think he's been that good and absolutely pivotal to Rotherham's survival bid this season. Had it not been for him, I think they've been in a significantly more worrying position right now with it all to play for going into the final weekend. He's the only Championship goalkeeper this season that's made over 150 saves. The next closest to him is Daniel Bachmann at Watford, who's made 129. Sheffield United, I'm going Iliman Ndiaye, but I was between 3 players for the Blades. Ahmed Hozic and Ollie Norwood have also been absolutely fantastic and have played equally important roles in their promotion this season. But Ndiaye really has been the player to step up on multiple occasions, and with 14 goals and 9 assists to his name this season, it is hard to argue against him. He's really stepped up in the absence of, he's sort of given the productivity to this Blades side that Gibbs White really offered last season, and more than stepped up up to the plate this season. I think he's a worthy winner, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Premier League now. Stoke City, I'm going for Ben Wilmot. I think he's grown into that side this season, and of the players that have been at Stoke for the entirety of this season, from the start of the season to end, I think he's been their most consistent player. Could maybe give it to one of the loanees that improved things somewhat coming in January, but I think over the full season, it's got to be Wilmot. Sunderland, plenty of honourable mentions, but I'm going for Amad Diallo. I think in terms of a blockbuster player who, when you catch him at his best, I think he's got this supreme talent that tells us all that he will be a star in the Premier League in due course, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Man United do with him next in terms of his development. But the catalogue of goals he scored this season, the big moments he's popped up in for Sunderland, that can't be ignored. Jack Clarke, also a worthy contender, 18 goal contributions for him this season. Danny Bat's been a real leader at the back for this side as well, and a few other mentions. Swansea, I think I'm going for Ryan Manning. I was really between him and Grimes, but overall in terms of contributions, I think Manning just about takes this one with 5 goals and 9 assists this season, and a catalogue, like I say, of really consistent performances this season. Perot, he has 20 goal contributions, 18 goals, 2 assists, but I just think there was a period of the season where he was a little bit wasteful in front of goal, and I think over the course of the full year, Manning just takes this one ahead of Grimes for me. Watford, João Pedro, it looks like he will be off to Brighton. I think that could be a cracking move for his career, actually. Pedro is one of the best talents that we've got in the Championship, but I think he's been hindered by circumstances at the club this season that haven't fully allowed him to completely thrive. But the underlying numbers have been absolutely magnificent for Pedro this season. Probably the best dribbler in the Championship, and 11 goals and 4 assists in what has been a really uncohesive Watford side isn't to be sniffed at either. West Brom, I think I'm just going to give it to Jed Wallace. His output's been consistent throughout the season with 6 goals and 8 assists. I think that in terms of coming up with moments and being a player who can be relied upon, Wallace is someone who I always look towards, from his time at Millwall and now at West Brom, in a good debut season for the Baggies. A few of the players that I was considering, I think that Malumbi's always been a little bit of an unsung hero there. Swift's put up some decent numbers this season. Yukashlu's been really good in midfield as well, but overall, just giving it to Wallace. Finishing it off with Wigan Athletic, I am going to go for James McLean. Still at 34 years old, as reliable as ever. He's featured in every single Championship match for Wigan this season, which really speaks to his consistency, and whether he's asked to play in a defensive role or a slightly more advanced role further up the pitch, I think he's always given 100% for the shirt this season, and 3 goals, 8 assists in that time in what has been a poor season for Wigan. I think McLean takes it for me. But guys, there we have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I'd like to know from you, do you agree with my selections? Anyone else that you'd throw in there as your personal player of the season for your club? Do let me know. Apart from that though guys, thanks for watching. If you did go to enjoy, do leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.